Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. Now, I told you guys about a week ago that we had a sponsor that we were going to be working with, and it's FanDuel. FanDuel is going to be the sponsor on this podcast for 2026, and we're very excited. We're very appreciative of the people at Believe and FanDuel for the opportunity. But they are going to be the official sponsor of Pistons Talk Podcast, so we're really happy about that. But we're going to get into this post-game show. Pistons played the Heat's first home game after that very long West Coast trip to start this game. No Tobias Harris. He's dealing with a hip injury. No Karis LeVert dealing with knee soreness. So you're without two vets in this one. And you went with a lineup that you've won with before, going into tonight when you started Cade Cunningham, Duncan Robinson, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, and Isaiah Stewart. You're 4-0. You're now 4-1 with that lineup, but that was the starting five. You insert Stu at the power forward, and I think this was a game where I looked at it and I'm like, this is probably going to be a close game. It's probably going to be a game that goes down to the wire. And it was definitely a close game throughout. But in the first quarter, I think what really, caught my attention was the pace in which this game was played with. And when you talk about the Miami Heat, they're a very fast paced team. They're the best fast paced team in the NBA. They lead the NBA in just pace. And you saw they were just getting up and down the court so quickly. And I think the Pistons weren't really fully prepared for the transition game that Miami wanted to play tonight. And they went on a 14-0 run in this first quarter within like 3 minutes. And it just got to a point where like the Pistons were having a very difficult time like adjusting to the transition game with Miami. Duncan Robinson did kind of help in this first quarter. He led them in all scoring with 7 points in this first, but the Pistons were down in this first quarter 33-26. Going into the second quarter, Cade was looking to get them back into this game. He was really aggressive. Miami did have a 7-point lead, got down to 3. Pistons did pick up the pace a little bit in the middle of the second quarter. They did have a little bit of a lead, a 44-43 lead, but at the 4-minute and 42-second mark, Miami took a timeout, and they quickly regained that lead that the Pistons had. Given it was just only a 1-point lead, but they were up 9 at halftime, and Norm Powell and Jaime Jaquez Jr. were a big reason why the Heat were able to get out to that lead in the second quarter to go into halftime 63-54. Coming out of halftime, Miami just came out super aggressive, crashing the glass, making it really difficult for the Pistons to play in the paint with the double bigs that they do play with Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo. Like all those paint touches and the layups and the lobs, they just weren't there. Miami did a very good job of just packing the paint with 3-4 defenders anytime Cade got into the lane or Asar tried to go for a layup. Their game plan tonight was just to make it very difficult for the Pistons to score around the paint because they know that that's where they like to dominate. And this is a team that isn't really known for their outside shooting. JD tried to play after rolling his ankle very early on in the first half, but they ruled him out for the remainder of the game. And we'll get into Jalen Duren and his injury after these post-game notes. But the Pistons were able to kind of shave down that 22-point lead down to a 13-point lead. It was 94-81. Norm Powell, by the way, had 34 points in 3 quarters. Man, he was just feeling it. When he's hitting threes like that, he's really hard to stop. Pistons kept scrapping back, though. Marcus Sasser, Paul Reed were trying to get the Pistons back into this game. Back-to-back games where Marcus Sasser has played just impactful minutes and played, well. It's good to see him get an opportunity. But I think the story of this game is definitely going to be just the careless passing and the turnovers in this one. A lot of the passes we made were just like very lazy into traffic. when, we shouldn't have made those passes in the first place. Pistons did make this a game, though, down the stretch. Cade Cunningham hit a big three. Then he gets a steal. They get it down to 114 to 109 with a minute 6 left. They go on a 9-0 run. And it looks like, maybe the Pistons can come back. Jaime Jaquez Jr. Gets into isolation, scores, and the Pistons just didn't have enough to scrap back after being down 22 points. They lose by 6, though, to the Miami Heat, 118 to 112. And honestly, when I'm looking at Miami with this game, I honestly think, like, when we start getting into towards the end of the season, like, Miami could be a team that the Pistons possibly match up with in the playoffs, right? Like, they're one of the best offensive teams in the league. The way they run, transition, everything like that. But there was no Tyler Hero in this one either. They still found a way to beat the Pistons without Tyler Hero. But man, really, really eye-opening game if you're a Piston fan when you're looking at, like, how can the Pistons get better at this deadline. I think it's more, perimeter shooting, because when a team will take away the paint, like, how else are you going to impact the game? Like, and I think the answer to that is more 3-point shooting. And Sasser was a big contributor off the bench for the Pistons tonight, but I think they still need a 3-point shooter or two at the deadline. So, like, really just make this team stronger. I'm not saying, like, go out, make a splashy trade by any means, but, like, if you can get, like, a B to a, C plus player at the deadline that can contribute, off the bench, I think it'll be really interesting to see what Trajan Langdon and the Pistons do. But I do want to get into the box score and the team stats, and then we'll open up the show like we always do to comments and questions with you guys. I want to go over the team stats first, just to kind of show you, like, how did the Pistons lose this game? Because if you look at the team stats, it's really eye-opening. If you look at the Heat, they attempted 99 shots to the Pistons 80. And you're probably asking yourself, how did the Heat generate 19 more shots than the Detroit Pistons did? And it's the rebounding department. They had 49 rebounds. 15 of their 49 rebounds were offensive. They were really crashing the glass, getting extra possessions that way. And it's also the turnovers too. The Pistons had 21 turnovers, and the Heat cashed in on those turnovers. So they were able to really hurt the Pistons there. One positive note, if you guys want to have a positive note, the free throws have been getting a little bit better by the games. 27 out of 31 for the Pistons. They shot 87%. Miami shot 90%. They shot 18 out of 20 from the free throw line. But it's going to be really difficult to beat a team that's getting 19 more shots than you and dominating the offensive glass, when that's more of, like, your strength of, dominating the boards and dominating the paint. You weren't really able to do that today, but did kind of want to just throw the team stats on the screen for you guys to look at if you weren't able to watch the game tonight. If we do look at the box score for the Detroit Pistons, Duncan played 20 minutes in this one, scored 9 points, 3 out of 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, 2 out of 2 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover. It was a -10 and a +- in this one. Isaiah Stewart got the start tonight, 6 points, 2 out of 5 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 5 blocked shots in this one. Tied his career high with blocked shots. He was at -1 in the +/. Jalen Duren only played 18 minutes, scored 12 points, 6 out of 12 from the field. Cashed in 5 rebounds, 1 turnover, 1 steal, -17. Don't really know the severity of his ankle injury. Before you guys ask me, I don't know. We'll probably get an update over the next couple of days of how bad his ankle injury actually is. Cade Cunningham in this one, 40 minutes. That's honestly crazy, man. Like, 40 minutes in a game is just really, really crazy for your starting point guard. 31 points, shot 16, 6 out of 16 from the field, 2 out of 6 from the free throw line, 17 out of 18 from the free throw line, excuse me. 2 out of 6 from 3, 17 out of 18 from the free throw line. I just got I know he got to the free throw line a lot. I didn't realize he got to the free throw line that many times. That's crazy, actually. He had 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 7 turnovers, which, that's just, you cannot have 7 turnovers. You have to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. I do think a lot of the passes tonight were very lackadaisical and weren't really paying attention. He also cashed in 3 steals and 2 blocks. He was a +6 in the plus minus. Sar Thompson played 30 minutes. He had 12 points, 5 out of 8 from the field, 2 out of 3 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 2 block. He was a -13. The bench, he had Paul Reed play some minutes, obviously, with, Duran going down and Stu being in the starting lineup. He was perfect from the field tonight. He had 9 points, 4 out of 4, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. He was a +13. Led the Pistons in plus minus tonight. Ron Holland in 18 minutes had 2 points. Not his best shooting night. 1 out of 7 from the field, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, 1 steal. Javonte Green in 26 minutes cashed in 11 points, 4 out of 7 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. Made both of his free throws, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. Marcus Sasser in 24 minutes, another impressive game if you guys want to kind of take a positive out of this one. 18 points, 6 out of 10 from the field, 4 to 6 from 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals. Good to see him get an opportunity and good to see him, cash in on that opportunity. Jaden Ivey in 21 minutes had 2 points, 1 out of 4 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 1 turnover. It was a -6 in the plus minus in this one, but that's kind of just like the team stats and the box score and just overall, like if you do want to take any sort of positive with the Pistons and what they did tonight, you could honestly just kind of look at the Marcus Sasser contributing again off the bench. I think that's a bright spot. I think it's something they should look to do more. Him playing off ball with Cade Cunningham or him playing off ball with the second unit because we all know the guy can score. Another thing that we'll probably be monitoring is that they're an injury as well. But I do want to get into the Q&A of this podcast, see that you guys are leaving comments with this post-game show, and we'll get into that. I do want to get into Joseph. He does get the first comment of tonight's show. And Joseph's comment says, let me make the first comment. Too many times Jaden Ivey was wide open. Nobody passed him the ball. He's going to have to start demanding the ball. Moron Holland is not there yet with his offense. I think a game like tonight, Jaden Ivey, he scored 2 points, 1 out of 4. Obviously, he wasn't getting the ball as much offensively. I don't really know if he should be demanding the ball more, but I think there are other ways for him to impact the game outside of scoring. I think defensively, I've liked what I've seen since he's come back. I'm not going to analyze just like one game with Jaden Ivey. I think, again, with Ron Holland, at times, he tries to finish in traffic, and the Heat all night had at least 2 to 3 bodies in the paint. It seemed like every possession. I'm not really going to come too hard on those guys, just like not having the best shooting night. It happens. It really does happen. Want to get into Arthur's comment. He says, first game back in a long West Coast trip. Was kind of expecting that. Hopefully they get right with the Cavs and the Knicks next. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really going to use the West Coast excuse trip. Yeah, they were on the road for several days. Yeah, they got back in Detroit last night. But their effort showed me that they're able to turn it on defensively and make shots when they need to, right? Obviously, they did play a very long game. Obviously, when you kind of look at this game as a whole, I think the Heat just game planned really well for the Pistons in this one. And granted, like going into this game, It was only I believe FanDuel set the odds at, as a 5-point game. It was a 6-point game. Honestly, like, these games just are so chaotic, like, each Pistons Heat game, of recent memory, they've just gone down to the wire. If we see them in the playoffs, I think it'll be very fun and exciting for both fan bases, but yeah, man, like the West Coast trip, obviously, if you guys want to say they were tired, I didn't even think that they were tired. I just think Miami just did a better job of executing defensively. They were just getting into the spots where the Pistons are very comfortable at, and they were just beating them. And I mean, you can credit Davion Mitchell, you can credit Khalil Ware and Bam. Um, you can credit Norm Powell just being a flamethrower out there offensively. But I didn't even think they looked really tired to me. I thought that they were still getting to their sets. They were still getting to their spots. The Heat just did a better job defensively tonight, and that happens some nights. Derek Brown does have a comment. Do you think Ron and Nassar can play together in the future? Neither is big enough to play power forward, and the half court offense is concerning. Great question, Derek. Do I think both of them can play together? I do. Um, is it right now? I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't think you can throw Ron and Nassar in a starting lineup right now, if that's your question. I think in the future they can play together. I think what you're hoping for, if you're a Piston fan, with the duo of Ron Holland and Nassar, is one of them is going to have to become a knockdown shooter. Because having, both of those guys being non-shooters, I think it becomes more difficult that way. There was a possession tonight, which I'm sure if you guys watched the game, you saw, where Sar was wide open at the top of the key for a three. The whole gym was expecting him to shoot it, but he didn't. He put the ball on the floor and tried to make something, tried to get like a little mid-range, little teardrop there, but nothing really happened. I think for, those two to play together long term in the future, they're going to have to develop as shooters. I think that's the only way it does work. And I do agree with you in the half court offense. It is concerning when, Asar is almost reluctant to shoot at times. Like, it seems like he's almost afraid to shoot 3-point shots. Obviously, we know he's very young. He's still developing. He's still working with Fred Vincent. But if these two want to, play together long term, one of them's going to have to develop a jump shot. I so happen to think that Ron Holland, to me, is closer to developing a long-term jump shot than Asar. Asar right now just seems like he's more confident in taking the ball to the basket, backdoor cuts, lobs, little, 12 to 15 foot mid-range jump shots. I don't really think a 3-point shot is in his bag or his arsenal right now. And I think that's something that they'll probably work on this offseason, getting more confident of, stepping out to the 3-point line. But as of right now, he just will not shoot threes. I think he's shooting less than a half attempt a game from three, shooting like 30%, but like a half attempt a game is like such a small sample size. You'd like to see him shoot a little bit more. Like, when you're that wide open, like, I don't care if you just hit rim. Like, it's the process of getting comfortable with shooting threes. And right now he's just not shooting threes. But that's just kind of my assessment of those two long term, Derek. Hopefully that did answer your question. I think a lot of Pistons fans have that question as well. Like, can these two play together long term? Want to get into a couple more comments and questions. I see KLXVD has a comment about the third quarter. So, abysmal start to the third quarter, too many turnovers and not capitalizing in transition. Cade couldn't get comfortable. I agree. That third quarter was really bad. I mean, Miami was just getting to their spots. They came out aggressive. They're crashing the glass. They weren't able to take care of the basketball. It was just so many passes. Miami was just playing the passing lanes, or Davion Mitchell was up on Cade. Cade couldn't really get into a rhythm. It just gets to a point where, you have to be a little bit sharper with your passes. I have a comment from Kakashi Hatake. I might be exaggerating, but when we are constantly cutting the lead down to 10, Cade turned the ball over. It seemed like every time we got the lead, or the Miami lead, down to like 8, 9, or 10, Miami would just hit a three, or it would be a turnover. I don't think you're exaggerating at all. Like, watching the game, it's just like, okay, like, if we can make a stop, maybe we can get it down to like 5. a 4 point lead. But it just seemed like every time we tried to get back into the lead, Miami just kept their foot on the gas and kept us at bay. Um, and if you don't turn the ball over 21 times, maybe you have a better shot of winning this game. If you're, swinging the ball a little bit more, passing the ball a little bit more, and maybe you find more opportunities in the paint, or maybe you find more opportunities in the mid range or from three. Um, Maybe you do win this game. But Miami's a very, very good basketball team. Like, I wouldn't really look at this loss and be upset with it. Like, they're a top seeded team in the East. Like, they're going to be a tough first round matchup for whoever gets them in the first round, whether it's the Pistons, whether it's the Knicks, the Celtics, Toronto, the Magic. Like, that's going to be a very tough team to play in the playoffs, especially being coached by Eric Spoelstra. Got a comment from You Can't Hear Me Now. I love Asar, but he's a liability for all the good he does on defense. His offense is brutal. Yeah, sometimes it does feel like it's 5 versus 4 out there, because if he can't get into the lane, or he's not backdoor cutting, or even just catching lobs, I think the defense knows, and they kind of stay back because they know that he wants to drive. They know he wants to get to the rim. I think Asar has to do a better job of understanding, like, you have to be more aggressive in trying to help your team. Now, if you don't think that you can get into the lane and get a layup, or a floater, like, just pass the ball out, maybe set a pick. I remember listening to Kevin O'Connor. I'm not Kevin O'Connor, excuse me, Zach Lowe. I always get those two confused because they're very analytical, and they both have just like wild thoughts and wild podcast. It's probably because they have ADD like me. Maybe that's why I get those two confused. But anyways, Zach Lowe had mentioned like using Asar kind of like Draymond Green, where you just have him run dribble handoffs and passing, and maybe you can have Asar hit the occasional three, or cutting and stuff like that. Maybe you kind of experiment, kind of having him play like a Draymond Green type of role. But most nights defensively, we all know that he's our best defender, but offensively, you're starting to see JB rely more on Javonte Green and Ron Holland in those instances, because he knows that offensively right now he's still developing, of helping his teammates and being a positive. Um, but right now it's just a thing where he's still trying to figure out how he can impact scoring. And JB's probably going to rely on Javonte Green most nights. Wes Weaver has a question as it relates about the deadline. My question is, who do you want us to make a call for when the deadline hits? I'm actually in the middle of making a huge video, Wes Weaver, which you'll probably like. Um, I am looking at more perimeter shooters. I'll give you a name, just because I know you're really big into trades. I'm looking at a guy now. It's a very under the radar guy. You guys probably know him if you're a Michigan State fan. I'm looking at Max Christie from Dallas. Um, Very under the radar. He's having a career year from three with Dallas. Pretty good defender. Those are the type of players I think Trajan would probably look to um, trade for. Just 3 and D guards, forwards on this team. I think Max Christie to me would make a whole lot of sense. I gave you one from my video, but I'm making a trade deadline video where I landscape all 29 teams and I pick one trade target for the Detroit Pistons. I'm still in the middle of making it. It should be out in maybe the next couple of days or so. It'll be a podcast for you guys to enjoy. But when I'm kind of just looking at it, I think the Pistons will add marginally. I don't really see them making anything crazy. I don't see them trade multiple firsts at this deadline. I still see the Michael Porter Jr. Report every other day. Apparently, the Pistons are monitoring his situation right now to see like what it could take. I'm not entirely sure like what their really looking to do. I'm really not. I do think they will address 3-point shooting, but I'm not entirely sure, like, are they looking at power forward? Are they looking at, maybe more backup point guard help? Because we don't really technically, quote unquote, have one. Like it was Karis LeVert, Jaden Ivey, even saw Marcus Astor play some backup point guard again tonight. But it'll be interesting to see like what Trajan does kind of look at. But um, just to kind of answer your question, Wes, that is my answer to the trade deadline. But I don't want to reveal too much out of it because I think you guys would really enjoy it. Michael Powell does have a comment. Utilizing Thompson as a point forward could work, but he has to be surrounded with shooters. Also needs to tighten his handle still. Yeah, I agree. Like you do need more shooters. That's why I had mentioned, like, at the deadline, trying to attract more 3-point shooters. I do agree with the handle. I think at times like it looks good, but as of late, the way it's trending, he is getting more turnovers than I like, but he's also driving into traffic with 2, 3 defenders trying to make something out of nothing with his athleticism. But start getting a tighter handle, I think, is something that he'll keep on developing and getting better at as well. Red Baron, I'm guessing Durham might be out for a week or two. While he's out, uh, it would be worth playing Asar, Holland, and Stu as the front court lining. I know JB has kind of rolled that lineup before. I don't know if that's like an everyday, like 10 to 15-minute lineup. I think in spurts you'll see it. Wouldn't surprise me if you do see a call up from the G League for Tolu Smith or Isaac Jones, because the Crews do have some big men down there. But I think it'll be interesting to see how long he's going to be out. It could just be like a mild sprained ankle and he's good to go against Cleveland this weekend. But we'll see. We'll see. We all know with Jalen Duren and his ankles. You know, most of his injuries have been ankle injuries, and the guy even wears braces because he's had so many. But I'm not really sure, like, what the status of his injury is. He just had it. Probably won't know until at least tomorrow or possibly Friday. But I'll try to update you guys on that when I do see it. Um, do you think they'll go back to putting Ivy into the starting lineup, Mr. J? I think at some point, yes. I think you're starting to see JB play him more. He played 20 minutes again tonight. Obviously, no Karis LeVert does help. But I do think I think eventually you will. When is that going to be? I'm not entirely sure. JB hasn't really made starting lineup changes unless there's an injury. So I think he will put Ivy back into the starting lineup. Maybe it's in a couple of weeks. Maybe it's sooner than later. I'm not sure. But you have to remember he is, in a contract year. He will eventually be out in the starting lineup next to Cade Cunningham in the backcourt, and you can kind of have Duncan off the bench. It'll be interesting to see though when JB does kind of roll that lineup out. But I want to wrap this podcast up, you guys. I do appreciate you uh, listening for the past 29 minutes. Fortunately, the Pistons did lose this one, 118 to 112. We will see you guys on the next post-game show when the Pistons play the Cleveland Cavaliers in a very early game, by the way. So podcast will probably be like around 4, 5 o'clock. But appreciate all you guys. Hope you guys had a great New Year's. Take care. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.